Should minors be allowed to transition?
Minors should be allowed to do what their parents allow them to do. They don't do it while they're under your roof. They're going to do it later.
But there are instances where people detransition. How can we protect trans youth that do regret their decision and want to detransition?
You make your decisions, and then you decide to make another decision. That's just
Spoken like a guy who's never been a parent before. Minors can do whatever their parents allow them to do. If parents encourage them to steal, should we encourage them to steal? If parents encourage them to not study on school and get really bad grades and just skip school all the time, we should encourage that. If parents encourage them to do things that are inappropriate for their age, such as, I don't know, get a tattoo, go to a strip club, see it in a movie that's like rated R or older. If this guy was in front of me, he'd probably be like, oh no, I didn't mean it like that. Like, you're just taking my words out of context. No, I'm using the words that you're saying. It's just unfortunate that you use words arbitrarily, meaning that you just use words that don't mean what you think they mean. And people just need to start thinking before they speak sometimes.
How's this for a motivational phrase? Our resistance will be talked about for generations.
So I overhear this girl talking about how this guy at the gym has been annoying her, which happens. But then she goes, yeah, I made it very non-verbally clear that it was bothering me. I'm not even a man and I don't know what that means or looks like. Did you make a face and telepathically expect him to know what that means? You are allowed, no, super allowed to say, I don't want to talk to you. I super allow you to say, please leave me alone. Really, any words will work, but the only non-verbally clear thing men understand is the nod. And if he wants to argue with you after you've already asked him to leave you alone, that's when you once again practice your verbal communication and tell any of the other guys at the gym, and I promise you they will handle it. And by the way, I have been so charitable throughout this whole video because this girl's actual complaint with this man was that he wouldn't stop wearing compression shorts and she could see the outline. Not even a valid complaint, to be honest. His body, his choice.
I can second this message. If anybody was ever wondering, no, we don't know what you're thinking. So if you don't verbally tell us, we will not know. And if we don't know, we can't help you. So please, use your words. It is not that complicated. And here's the thing, right? If you can be upset with this man for wearing compression shorts, can we equally be as upset for, like, if you come in basically half naked with the, you know the kind of combination I'm talking about, with the crop top bra and the super tight against the skin, like, undergarments, basically like you're coming to the gym in your underwear. Because I'm just saying, some people ain't trying to see that either. It's not cute.
Well, Michael, do you know what the leading cause of death for pregnant people is?
Pregnant people? Mothers? Women?
If you'd like to call them mothers, not all of them are mothers.
What do you mean by that?
But if you'd like to call them that.
What are they if they're not mothers?
They're pregnant people.
What people other than mothers are pregnant?
Does it bother you to use inclusive language? It only takes a couple extra syllables to use inclusive language.
To include
and
who?
It seems to include people who don't, identify as women but can become pregnant.
So, like a person who's born a woman and then identifies as a man and is pregnant.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that in order to be a moral person, I need to accept the idea that a man, someone who is born a man and looks like a man, can really become a woman. That's a prerequisite of my being a moral person.
I mean, yes. To me it is, because if you are trying to deny someone of their identity and deny what their life experience is, then that doesn't seem like a moral stance to me. I want to be accepting and I want to respect people's life experiences and respect the way that they want to identify and respect the way that they want to present.
I would like to identify, I do identify actually, as the correct person on this issue. I identify as being correct and more correct than you on this issue. And I would just ask that you accept and affirm my identity. Do you?
That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
Nah.
Come on, Billy, you gotta do it.
Debate team is not my thing, Benny.
What about you, Julie?
I got a soccer tournament and 3 papers to do.
Debbie? Come on, don't let me down, Debbie.
I don't think so, Penny Proud. I got a DJ gig. You can take your model minority myth somewhere else.
Model minority myth? What does that mean?
I think she just called you a racist, Penny.
Black people can't be racist? I agree. Racism is prejudice plus power. But we can be jerks. I give you that.
This is what I mean, yo. They're just taking words and redefining it. Look at this screen right now. Do you see this definition? Good, because that's what the actual word means. It's just insane that people are really just imbuing this into kids' cartoons as though, like, people won't find out about it or that it's normal and that this is appropriate. How? Like, you have to really, I understand as a parent, you gotta watch what your kids watch and be mindful of that. There has to be parental advisory, but like, you can't trust anybody with your kids now. It's crazy.
You dropped out of college, and your highest...
Community college.
Sorry, your Harper College experience, I apologize.
Barely was smart enough to make it through community college.
Okay. What are your qualifications for arguing that college is a scam, or really having any economical knowledge at all, when likely the vast majority of the students here know more than you?
Who's Milton Friedman?
Who's Milton Friedman? I have no idea, and it's not important to this conversation.
Who is John Maynard Keynes?
Okay, obviously I know who Keynes is.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
He's the most famous economist of all time.
You don't know Milton Friedman?
I mean, that's an economist.
F.A. Hayek?
I don't know who that is.
You're right, I barely made it through community college because I was too busy, starting a national youth movement with hundreds of thousands of members, raising hundreds of millions of dollars, having a top 10 most popular podcast, and reaching tens of millions of people online every day. I'm a job creator, entrepreneur, autodidact. Do you know what that word means? Yeah, self-taught. You should probably learn that word if you're going to come up and insult other people's intelligence.
Hey.
See, here's the thing. There's this thing called the argument from authority fallacy, I believe it's called, in logic, where just because you have some kind of position of power, it doesn't mean that you're right. There have been so many presidents and dictators throughout the world, even to this day, that were so wrong on issues, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Just because you're a nurse doesn't mean that you know absolutely everything that there is to do to take care of somebody who's sick. Just because you're a lawyer, it doesn't mean that you know the law, and especially if you're a police officer, it doesn't mean that you know the law that you are supposed to enforce. And the same thing about Charlie, to be honest with you, like, just because he has like millions of subscribers and followers doesn't mean that he's right on everything. That's no shame towards him. I'm just saying that the merits of your argument and the merit of your work is what will prove to be right in the end. Nothing of this like, oh, I have a bachelor's or I'm this successful makes you any more right or any more less right. Prove my point, when you get a chance, look up famous people who think that the earth is flat. The list might shock you.
I made 2 separate videos before the election. One of the videos said I was going to vote for Kamala Harris. The other video said I was going to vote for Donald Trump. And I just wanted to see the mixed reactions from people and how people would react, because I do a lot of work from my hometown, do a lot of work from my community. I work with young boys. And I never said who I was voting for. But I made those 2 videos because I want to show people how they are in reality. I made the Donald Trump video and I made the Kamala Harris video. Under the Kamala Harris video, you definitely had some Trump supporters like, well, we understand that you may have a different opinion or whatever, but we still support what you do. Maybe you'll wake up one day, etc., etc. You know, things like that. It wasn't nothing vile, wasn't no bad comments or nothing. I made the Donald Trump video. I got people that unfollowed me. I got people saying they can't support nothing I do no more. I got folk calling me all types of names, etc., etc. But what's crazy is all of the Kamala Harris supporters have become what they accuse Trump supporters of being. When you say you support Donald Trump, y'all be ready to kill him. Y'all ready to burn him at the stake. You calling them all types of names. You unfollow them. You don't care what they're doing for their community. Nothing. If you support Trump, F you, I hate you so much, etc., etc. But all the people under the post, all the Trump supporters, when I said I was going to vote for Kamala, it was all love anyway. They was like, well, we still support what you're doing. We still going to donate. We still love the work, even though you don't have to support Donald Trump, etc., etc. So I've only received hate from the people that call themselves the tolerant side, the side that's supposed to be about love, the side that's supposed to that's not about hate. But it's crazy because anytime somebody doesn't agree with you, all you spew is hate. All you give is hate. So it's funny how everybody who call themselves Democrats, you have turned into what you accuse the Republicans of being.
It's frustration, and it's not as uncommon, unfortunately, as you would hope that it would be. I've known people who have gone to their parents' funeral, and they met their family members there, and they all got together for the wake, and after the proceedings, they buried the guy and everything, and they finally get back to like their gathering, they're hanging out afterwards. Somehow, some way, the idea that he's about to vote for Trump tore the family apart. Like, as in, like, wow, that was, your father would be ashamed of you. And it's like, what a thing to say after you just buried the guy that day. And, you know, like, that was the person's father. And they got into this huge argument because how could they possibly consider voting for Trump as a person? And that's just like insane to me. Like, you are literally coming together for one of the most terrible times in your life, one of the most awful things that you could probably experience, and you're there with the people that are also sharing in that grief. You know, brothers of this guy, sisters of this guy, nephews of this guy, and you know, you would think you would all be there in unity to go there for your grief, but if you disagree with them on the silliest of things, nah, you're done to grief all alone. And it sucks. What can you do?
It looks like he's having a nice feast.
Her. I'm not sir.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, like it's like a knife in the heart.
Yes,
okay.
sir?
Not.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It's just always like a knife. It always hurts every single time. I was wondering if there's a manager I could talk to about something that happened. Yeah, I was called sir. Oh, okay. It just really sucks every time it happens. The person who gave me this called me sir. Not a sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I... Not sir. Not sir. The guy who dropped the food off, he called me sir twice in a row.
Like, you see this compilation and you see how often this happens, that you would think that this person would just develop a thick skin. And also the idea of, if it keeps happening to you, right, maybe the only thing that matches in all of these scenarios is you. So maybe you can make the corresponding thing that maybe it's you, and maybe something that you got to deal with. If you're so confident in your gender, then you do not need other people to affirm that for you. Because honestly, when you cry and stuff like that, you look like this. Don't ever look like this.
Hey Maga, I was just taking some trash out, and I thought I found a flying gift for you. You know, about you losing friends and family members this past week due to your cult activity. But it turns out it was just a plain old you.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
So last night, I told my mom and dad that because they voted for someone who wants me dead, that they no longer have the privilege of having their daughter and their granddaughters in their life. And I told them, never contact me again. I'm never calling you. I want nothing to do with you. And take me out of the will. I have a younger brother who is also a MAGA. I said, when you guys pass away, give him the entire house. I don't want to inherit your house. I don't want anything from you. I don't want to hear from you ever again, because I'm no longer safe being in a relationship with you.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You were 57, young man, right? Yeah. And you had a family and you had a mortgage and you had to go to work and you had an energy crisis that was about to cripple you financially. Would you be sitting in a road, or would you be slightly hacked off if these eco-zealots, or whatever you call them, were making it impossible for you to carry on with your job? I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, I'm being honest. Every time I get somebody from Just Stop Oil, they're barely out of nappies. No disrespect. Why? You don't have any experience of the real world. It's just, it's a bunch of unwashed students giving it large. You're stopping people from going about their daily lives.
Like, honestly, see the way this guy is being interviewed, he thinks it's a joke. He's laughing and smiling throughout the whole time. That's why whenever I ever am in a debate or having a serious conversation with somebody who's either smiling or laughing at me, you gotta stop and just be like, what are you smiling about? Is what I'm saying funny to you? I'm not trying to be funny. What part of this amuses you? Gets mad intimidating, don't it? But honestly, if you're attempting to have a serious discussion in your life with anybody and they just think it's a joke, then they don't respect you. And you cannot have a mutually fruitful conversation if both people don't respect each other enough to both be polite and just to hear the other person out. And once all that collapses, everything else falls apart. So you just have to move on or find the group of people that will listen to you.
1, 2, 3!
Hey, when we're older, let's get married.
Ha! You can't get married.
Why not?
Black people can't marry white people.
Hey now.
It's Garden! it from Steven Universe.
Kids, don't be racist.
Cut. Okay, people, we just need to get coverage. We'll start again in 5.
This is the cheesiest job I've ever done. Stuff like this doesn't actually happen in real life. Whoa there.
Are you kidding? It totally does.
Just because this has never happened to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Seriously, I didn't know.
Yeah, everyone messes up sometimes. But you gotta realize it hurts to deal with racism. And when people act like it's not real, it makes it feel even worse.
You have to acknowledge racism to work against it.
You're right. I can do that.
You kids better work on this before the wedding.
Whoa, that's just
We're
from
just
the script.
actors. We only just met today.
Again, why is this on a kid's platform? This is just so strange and such a weird PSA to have. And there are better ways than this type of propaganda to get the message across. Across? I guess I'm Emma Fudd now. What do I do? Anyways, like, I think one of the best things I saw growing up was this show called Static Shock. It was about this teenager named Virgil. He was black and he had the ability to control like static electricity and all the things that kind of come with that. There was an episode in particular where he sleeps over at his white friend's house for the first time. And it wasn't like an obvious thing of like, oh, you're black and in my house, how dare you? But it was like very subtle. It wasn't on the nose. And it turned out that the father had a couple of racist tendencies and made very quick assumptions about Virgil. He was calling Static Shock very baseless things, and it ended up making Virgil feel so uncomfortable, Static Shock so uncomfortable, that he ended up leaving and not sleeping over. And then the friend got upset with him, then he left, and then what ended up happening was that the dad wanted to find his son, and because he couldn't find him on his own, he needed the help of both the black superhero Static Shock and the black police officer, which just so happens to be Static Shock's father. What I really appreciate about that is that it humanizes these people, because people don't just hate for no reason. It's not like it's a thing in your blood where you're just like, I just happen to hate everybody for this reason. Like, most people, while it's an uncomfortable conversation, a lot of racists get their beliefs from somewhere. It's not just like a thing that is just expected. It's taught. And that can either be taught by the people around you or where you're growing up, your circumstances. Like, I personally have known people who have a job where they were surrounded by a certain group of people. And I personally knew this woman, let's just call her Ella. And Ella had been working the job for 5 years, and she had always told me that the worst part about that job was working with those coworkers. They just so happened to be mean to her. They wouldn't let her sit at the same table as her. They wouldn't let her clock in like other girls would, and it was just a very uncomfortable situation for Ella. But Ella takes that experience and thinks that all Haitian people are like that. So from her perspective, she is racist towards Haitian people. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm not saying that it's excusable. However, if we start to understand why these people are racist, we can figure out ways to make them unracist. So like a simple thing that can be done is introduce Ella to more Haitian people that just aren't as rude as the people that she dealt with. And you know, maybe Ella could be lying and Ella was the problem and that's why everybody on the floor didn't like her. But honestly, it's probably more likely that there was just a cultural difference and that led to some animosity between the two. And while I understand I'm describing it in very simplistic terms, we all need to understand that this is a complicated issue and it's never going to have just a very simple answer for things. But there are very simple ways to start analyzing and thinking about these things. Because if you don't start, then there's no way you can end up in the place that you want to be. And if that stuck with you, I wanted to make one more thing stick with you as well. You could leave a comment to react to my reaction, and maybe I could react to your reaction of my reaction. If you couldn't already tell, you should subscribe and hit the bell. But before you take a hike, I would appreciate it if you dropped a like. Click here for another video if I'm becoming your new addiction, because I'm just here to show you that this is a world